to our first Read Aloud for the academic year. My name is Rita Sesko. I coordinate the program. And our first event this year is entitled For the Trees. And it has been designed by Dr. Rick Livingston from the Humanities Institute and also by a poet, Andrew Hudgens, who is in the English department, professor in the English department, has quite a list of publications under his name as well. So I'm going to turn this over to both of them.
Okay. On the last day of the world, I would want to plant a tree. What for? Not for the fruit. The tree that bears the fruit is not the one that was planted. I want the tree that stands in the earth for the first time, with the sun already going down and the water touching its roots, in the earth full of the dead, and the clouds passing one by one over its leaves. It's a poem called Place by W.S. Merwin. So welcome to reading For the Trees. I'm Rick Livingston. I'm the director of the Humanities Institute, and I'm here with Andrew Hudgens from the English department, poet and creative writer. And we're here to read in praise of trees, in celebration of the Arbo Blitz that's taking place today, the next few days. And you've probably seen some of the signs around campus. The Arbo Blitz is an effort to take an inventory of all the trees starting in central campus, but then extending throughout the campus of Ohio State. This is a project of Chadwick Arboretum and Mary Maloney, who runs the Chadwick Arboretum, and Steve Volkman, our University Landscape Architect, who are masterminds and inspirers of a project to get OSU enrolled as a Tree Campus USA, which involves official recognition that we acknowledge the value of our trees, but also that we plan to and have every intention to commit to taking care of the trees that we have. It's a little known fact that there have historically been funds to plant trees on campus and funds to remove trees that have died, but no funds for maintaining the trees or caring for the trees that exist. Now, as Buckeyes, as a campus named for a tree, you wouldn't think that we needed to be reminded of the need to take care of our trees, but it seems that mostly we take them for granted. So it's a nice opportunity to be reminded of what it is that we owe trees, what they give to us, and maybe to give back some. There are some volunteer opportunities on Friday and Saturday to help out with the tree inventory, and Steve and Mary will be able to tell you that. The Tree Campus USA program or that initiative is part of the OSU master plan. It's planned for 50 years what's going to happen to our campus. And the master plan calls for getting back to what has been our historic tree cover. That is, the amount of trees that we had somewhere around the beginnings of the university, which will be a challenge and a task. But when I heard at Arbor Day this task announced, Mary leapt up and said, we're going to make it. So what is that, 100,000 trees we have to plant?
We have quite a few. We want to have one for every student on campus.
So a tree for every student. That's something to show. Something to shoot for. So for the trees, there's an old saying that it's sometimes hard to see the forest for the trees. We're hoping that in some of the poems that I'm going to read, some of the poems that Andrew is going to read, maybe we can catch a glimpse of the forest for the trees. So we'll each read about 20 minutes or so, and then at the end we can have a few minutes for conversation. So I wanted to start by reading a poem for the members of my Introduction to Humanities class. We just came from talking about Thoreau and the Declaration of Independence. And this is a poem by William Hand called Emancipation Proclamation. Whereas it minds its own business and lives in its one place so faithfully, and its trunk supports us when we lean against it, and its branches remind us of how we think. Whereas it keeps no bank account, but hoards carbon, and does not discriminate between starlings and robins, and provides free housing for insects and squirrels, and lifts its heartwood grave into the air. Whereas it holds our firmament in place, and writes underground gospel with its roots, and whispers us oxygen with its leaves, and may not survive its new climate of ultraviolet. We the people, for ourselves and our children, necessarily proclaim this tree free from commerce and belonging to itself as long as it and we shall live. The Emancipation Proclamation. So here's another poem by William Hand called Maple and Starlings. Over my head, a maple fills with starlings against the evening sky. I won't move. I won't speak. The maple will hold them as long as it does. In a few seconds, the maple rising above me blossomed with starlings, darker than evening, darker than leaves. They flew from nowhere to here for the first time. I knew maple and starlings for the first time. This evening, the maple above me turned to starlings. A few moments, and everything was over. Nothing changed. The starlings flew from nowhere, they remember. The maple stands for nothing in the evening air. How long had it been evening? As long as starlings' shadows were blowing through the maples, as long as leaves were flying. Over my head, a maple fills with evening, releases flows of starlings, or receives them wherever they came from, wherever they're going. The maple growing into the evening above me fills with starlings. For a few seconds, it's been as though I've not been here to say maple and starlings. For a few seconds, the evening has darkened with starlings. Someone has been dreaming. Maple, starlings, an evening, second by second, being its own darkness. A maple rising in the dark air. Starlings from nowhere to nowhere. A maple. Starlings. So here's a poem by Rita Dove, Ohio poet, called The Buckeye. We learned about the state tree in school. Its fruit so useless, so ugly, no one bothered to commend the smudged trunk, nor the slim leaves shifting over our heads. Yet they were a good thing to kick along gutters on the way home, though they stank like a drunk's piss in the roads when cars had smashed them. And in autumn, when the spiny helmets split open, there was the bald seed with its wheat-colored eye. We loved the modest countenance beneath that leathery cap. We, too, did not want to leave our mothers. We piled them up for ammunition. We lay down with them among the bruised leaves so that we could rise, shining. And here, another Ohio poet, Mary Oliver, The Black Walnut Tree. My mother and I debate. We could sell the black walnut tree to the lumberman and pay off the mortgage. Likely some storm, anyway, will churn down its dark boughs, smashing the house. We talk slowly, two women trying in a difficult time to be wise. Roots in the cellar drains, I say. And she replies that the leaves are getting heavier every year and the fruit harder to gather away. But something brighter than money moves in our blood, an edge sharp and quick as a trowel that wants us to dig and sow. So we talk, but we don't do anything. That night I dreamed of my fathers out of Bohemia, filling the blue fields of fresh and generous Ohio with leaves and vines and orchards. What my mother and I both know is that we'd crawl with shame in the emptiness we'd made in our father's backyard. So the black walnut tree swings through another year of sun and leaping winds of leaves and bounding fruit, and month after month, the whip crack of the mortgage. Here's James Wright, another great Ohio poet. This is a prose poem called The Sumac in Ohio. He grew up in Martin's Ferry and wrote a lot of poems about Martin's Ferry, so right on the Ohio. Toward the end of May, the air in southern Ohio is filling with fragrances, and I'm a long way from home. A great place lies open in the earth there in Martin's Ferry, near the river. And to this day, I don't know how it came to be. Maybe the old fathers of my town, their white hair lost long since into the coal smoke and the snow, gathered in their hundreds along the hither side of the B&O railroad track, presented whatever blades and bull tongues they could spare and tore the earth open. Or maybe the gully appeared there on its own, long before the white-haired fathers came and the Ohio changed its direction and the glacier went away. But now, toward the end of May, the sumac trees on the slopes of the gully are opening their brindle buds. And suddenly, right before my eyes, the tough leaf branches turn a bewildering scarlet, just at the place where they join the bough. You can strip the long leaves away already, but the leaf branch is more thoroughly rooted into the tree than the trunk itself is into the ground. Before June begins, the sap and coal smoke and soot from wheeling steel wafted down the Ohio, but some curious gentleness in the Appalachians will gather all over the trunk. The skin will turn aside hatchets and knife blades. You cannot even carve a girl's name on the sumac. It is viciously determined to live and die alone, and you can go straight to hell. This is John Ashbury's Some Trees. These are amazing, each joining a neighbor as though speech were a still performance. Arranging by chance to meet as far this morning from the world as agreeing with it, you and I are suddenly what the trees try to tell us we are, that their merely being there means something, that soon we may touch, love, explain. And glad not to have invented such comeliness, we are surrounded. A silence already filled with noises, a canvas in which emerges a chorus of smiles, a winter morning, placed in a puzzling fight and moving. Our days put on such reticence, these accents seem their own defense. By Wendell Berry called How Long Does It Take to Make the Woods? How long does it take to make the woods? As long as it takes to make the world. The woods is present as the world is, the presence of all its past and of all its time to come. It is always finished. It is always being made, the act of its making forever greater than the act of its destruction. It is a part of eternity, and for its end and beginning belonging to the end and beginning of all things, the beginning lost in the end in the beginning. What is the way to the woods? How do you go there? By climbing up through the 6 days' field, kept in all the body's years, the body's sorrow, weariness, and joy. By passing through the narrow gate on the far side of that field, where the pasture grass of the body's life gives way to the high, original standing of the trees. By coming into the shadow of the grace of the straight ways ending, the shadow of the mercy of light. Why must the gate be narrow? Because you cannot pass beyond it burdened. To come into the woods, you must leave behind the 6 days' world, all of it, all of its plans and hopes. You must come without weapon or tool, alone, expecting nothing, remembering nothing, into the ease of sight, the brotherhood of eye and leaf.